if you watch my review on the FeelFree Dorado, as promised, we're going to be going ahead and we're going to be attempting a stability test on this thing. I'm going to try to get in. That's standing completely on one side. Now it does, I'm stood completely on this one side of the kayak, the right side. Now again, I'm not trying to flip this thing. It's not an intentional, like, let's see what we can do if we can flip it. But to be practical, all right, I want to be able to see what I can and can't do. So I'm fully kneeled on this side. One thing I noticed, first thing is initially it starts to tip, but then that secondary stability is there. Like right there, that's all secondary stability. I am completely, like if I was fighting a fish right now, I could plant my feet behind me to help support myself and essentially get right over there and net a fish. I'm 200 pounds, guys. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds. And I'm fully on this one side. I'm all the way on the right side of the boat. But, so I'm up close. Let's see if I can get all the way to the bow. What I'm noticing is starting to happen is the bow's taking on water. I mean, am I ever going to find myself in this scenario? Probably not. Why would I be standing on the bow of my kayak? Well, for practical reasons, I probably never would be. But just so you can see, I mean, the back of the kayak's coming out of the water. And this thing is, I mean, it's not moving. We'll go ahead and check the stability standing on the seat. Now, I know a lot of you guys are big into fishing beds and stuff like that. And the higher advantage you have to be able to look down in the water is a key factor when it comes to bed fishing. I'm not necessarily a bed fisherman myself, but what we'll do is we'll get up on this seat and see what we got. Now that's pretty good. I mean, even stood up on the seat, I mean, I'm really narrow with my feet, so I don't have that support that I'd like, but you can get up on here. You could definitely get up on here and I mean, it's going to rock, but again, you're not having a dance party on here. If you find yourself in this position, you're doing some type of finesse fishing off the bow or off the back of the boat or off the side, but you're basically sight fishing. That's what you're doing up here. But again, you guys heard me talk about that secondary stability, and what that is, if you don't understand what I'm getting at, like right there, it starts to turn initially, but then it starts to hold. It really does a good job. Like I'm leaned over. Now, if you don't have shit for balance, you're gonna fall out, and that's kind of like me. I'm tall, so I'm kind of top heavy. I don't have the best balance. I have pretty good balance when I'm stood up, but the most vulnerable time that you can find yourself in where you may fall out of the kayak or flip it is when you're going to stand up to do something and you lose your footing, or you're going to sit down and you maybe lose your balance. And that's how I fell out of my first fishing kayak. I was going to sit down and lost my balance, and the kayak rocked a little bit, and I mean, I went legs up and right over the side. I didn't flip the kayak, but I fell out of it. If I lower the gravity seat, All right, so now I'm down here like this. There ain't no way I'm flipping out of this thing. Look how much lower my center of gravity is now as compared to, you know, now I can really, you know, and honestly, I never fish out of this kayak like this, but I may start. I've never actually sat in this kayak with the seat all the way down like this, but I got to tell you, this is actually really nice. I feel a lot safer. When I'm sitting up high like that, I'm kind of vulnerable. But again, like I could be fighting the big one, right? Like trying to get him in the net, and I could even throw my leg off this other side, trying to gain some stability on the back end of it. You have to dedicate time, and I know, guys, like time is always of the essence, right? We want to spend our time on the lake fishing and not messing around with these things, because our time we have is very limited. At least for me, it is. So, but you have to do this. You have to get out and get comfortable in your boat. Figure out what the weak points are. And for me, what I'm noticing is with this boat, it's got great stability. But once you lose that secondary stability, it's going to go. But one way you can fix that is sit low like I am right now. And I mean, even if you were paddling or pedaling, this isn't horrible. It may not be a great position for a really big dude, you know, with a big gut or whatever, because of how low you are and you're kind of on an upward angle. You would want the seat up higher, but you can always lower the seat when you get into a position where you want to fish. And now we're back up. Yeah, see, this is where I like to be. This is where I like to be. But what you got to understand is you're compromising some stability when you're up like this. You're compromising quite a bit of stability, because now you're leaving yourself vulnerable to falling off the side of the kayak. Not necessarily flipping it, but falling off the side of it. And that's with any kayak, man. Old Towns, all of them. I know buddies that have flipped Old Towns. I know buddies that have flipped Hobies or fell out of them. It just happens. It happens. So that's why you need to get out and test these things. And the other thing is, you got to be real considerate about what you're putting back here and what you're reaching for. One of my buddies actually fell out of his Old Town because he was putting his net back. He uses one of them handled nets, and he was putting it back here, and then he just went to lean back over and then fell right off the side of it. I mean, it was almost like it was scripted, but it wasn't. It was just a mistake that was made, and he ended up in the water. Go to the back of the boat. I mean, I'm all the way at the back. So let's go ahead and move back forward without the stability of the paddle. All the way back to the front. And there I am. In about 3 steps, I went from the front to the back of the boat without even really feeling nervous about it. But the thing of it is, if you get real shaky, knocky knees, man, you're going to end up in the water. And that's with any boat. It could be a John boat. It ain't got to be a kayak, man. I've seen guys fall out of John boats. One thing I want to try quick, I want to try to get back in this kayak. I've fallen out. Look at me, I'm in the water. I fell out. And I want to figure out the best method. Now you can see I'm up to my crank here in water. So here we are. Now we're even deeper. I can't touch bottom hardly. So, as far as that goes, you can get it back in this kayak really easily. Not a situation you want to find yourself in, just like how I left my paddle on shore, but it is doable. If I wanted to try to get in on the bow, it's probably not a good idea because although it's an option, not a very good one. Because you can see, I mean, I guess you could get up, pull yourself in, but I found no issue just grabbing the side of it, getting yourself started, reach over and pull yourself in. What you're going to run into is when you're in this position trying to get back in it, or here, you go to pull this and you're going to flip it right back over. With this one, which I'll give an A+ rating on that for stability, with this one, you're here, as soon as you grab this other side and pull yourself, I mean, it's never, really, me, I don't really see a fear of it flipping. Like I could really crank it over and pull myself up. Granted, I don't have all my gear in here and stuff like that, but the only thing else I'd have in here is a rod box, some rods, a little bit of tackle. So I can hear all the water draining through that big scupper, which is good. So as far as stability, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm really comparing it to my other fishing kayaks. The Big Fish 108 has, hands down, is the most stable fishing kayak on the market. I mean, I haven't fished out of every one, but I've seen a lot of different styles. I've seen guys flip a lot of different styles, and the Big Fish 108 is by far 10 out of 10 stability. I'm going to give this an 8, mainly because of the position of your seating. If you're down here, this is a 10 out of 10 all day. If you're up here like this, I'm not saying the kayak isn't stable, but when you move your center of gravity up that much higher, now all your weight's up here, and it just makes it that much easier to tip. So even if you're down, let's say you're down there, you're not on the bottom, you still got about 6 inches of storage under here, you're really going to add to your stability factor here. So with the seat lower, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. With the seat all the way up where most people like to fish, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 as well as far as being able to get back in it once you fell out of it. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. My next video on FeelFree Kayaks is going to be the power drive, the motor drive system that can power this kayak, the most unique kayak motor on the market. I'm going to do a full review on that, give you guys my thoughts whether or not I think you should buy it or add it to your FeelFree kayak if you already have the overdrive system. I'll upload new videos like this, or out on the water fishing, or I'm going live on my platform. Make sure you hit that bell, that way you're notified. Thank you guys again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.